Color Outside the Box is a podcast series that focuses on creating a better you. Whether it's advice about family, relationships, raising children in this technological world, marriage, or careers, we seek to find the answers to help you live your best life. So start your Monday morning off right with me, your hostess with the mostest, Princess Miller, on Color Outside the Box right here on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be heard. Well, good Monday morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Color Outside the Box podcast with your hostess, Princess Miller, and we are back in the studio with Dr. Ruth Pettway. Dr. Pettway is the First Lady of Truly Anointed Ministries in Mobile, Alabama. She's also the author of After This, Navigating from Pain to Purpose. Guys, if you have not gotten your copy of After This, please go to Amazon right now and order your copy, or you can contact Ruth Pettway on Facebook, on Instagram, and look for Ruth Pettway, or go to the After This Navigating from Pain to Purpose Facebook page and get your copy today. Good morning, Dr. Pettway. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good. Wow. Last week's show was phenomenal.
Amen. So I enjoyed it.
Today we're going to talk about raising children God's way. This is going to be a good show.
Yes.
We're going to help some mothers out there.
Okay.
Let's talk about raising children God's way. You're a mother?
Yes.
Of a teenager?
Yes, I am.
And you and I have had conversations through the years about, raising kids. Your daughter's a little bit older than my kids. And so I come to you, from time to time, what do you think about this school? And what do you think about this? And then you say, yeah, and you need to look out for this and you need to look out for that. And I think that's missing a lot of times today. Yes. With mothers. Back in the day, I guess, women were closer. They got together more. Mm-hmm. And when they did, they shared information. And now we're so segmented. Our society is so segmented, and we will put things up on social media, but they may not necessarily be the truth.
Right.
So we're going to have a candid conversation today about raising children God's way. Yes. And the reason why I wanted to have this show is because, again, I want to help young mothers out there that are coming up, and we all have some similar situations because all of the kids go through mood changes and they go through different areas of, 1 year they're like this and then the next year they're like that, so you want to make sure that with these changes, because I was speaking with a mother recently and her son he's a preteen. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, I'm gonna have this boy tested. And so I was like, well, what's going on? Because my son is now a teenager. And she said, we asked him to do something. He had he can't remember. We go wash the dishes. And then 30 minutes later, why the dishes are not washed? Oh, I didn't hear you. She was like, I just don't understand. You got to tell them 5 times to do one thing before they actually get it done. His grades are starting to be affected. I think it's something wrong with him. I said, no, he's a boy. I used to think the same thing. I went through that with my son too.
Yes.
And so, I was giving her some tips. When you ask him to do something, don't yell, from one room, hey, go do this. No, you go in there, look him in his eye and say, hey, go wash dishes. Now, what did I just say? Go wash dishes? Okay, then. And then I started to see results because, I grew up in a household of girls. I had a brother, but, he's 8 years younger than me. So I just, dealing with teenage boys is something, but dealing with teenage girls is something else too. Can you give us some insight, Dr. Ruth, on dealing with these kids and raising them up God's way?
Yes, I'm laughing at the things that you're saying because all of it is true. I think as a parent, we all have lived and said, what is wrong with this kid? And I've threatened to put my child up for adoption many times, and which jokingly, of course, but I have found that I had to, and some may not agree, but I had to learn how my child hears, if that makes sense. Because I could tell my child over and over again something, and she'll do one of them and wouldn't do the next. And she'll say, what you were saying, this person said, their son said, I didn't hear you. So what I had to do, my daughter, when she sees something, that's how she learns. And I don't know why. So I would like type up something and put it on her bulletin board in her room. And yes, I bought her a bulletin board because
I understand.
She needs that. So, and it'll say, hey, do this, do that, clean your bathroom, wash dishes. If you do this, do that. And I'm serious. It almost sounds like you're helping them, to not just take initiative, but some kids, they need to have a to-do list. And then when they check it off, then they know they've done everything that you've required of them. And for my child, that work, it may not work for everybody, but she has a daily to-do list, which includes her homework, which includes cleaning up little chores around the house. And that works for her. Now, on the emotional side of it, my daughter has told me, Mom, I think you're a bully. And I'm like, well, what makes me a bully? Do you know what a bully is? What a bully does? She said, because you yell and you make me do things. And I'm like, no, that's called being a parent.
Yes.
That's being a parent. And I'm yelling because I've told you 3-4 times and you still haven't done it. And I'm not bullying you because I'm telling you what needs to be done. No, you got the wrong idea of a bully. So my daughter, we were working on her not thinking I'm a bully, because I have to raise my voice sometimes, or I have to be really firm.
And that's every parent. Yes. That's every parent. I am not a person that like to raise my voice.
Me either.
But they will take you there. Yes. And I have heard some parents that are saved, sanctified, love God, but that child can touch that one last nerve, and then they be like, girl, I cussed him before I knew it. I'd be like, no, you don't do that. You take a breath, and you think about what you're going to say. You be deliberate before you release it out your mouth.
Absolutely.
Because I have seen that parents, they need help. They are desperate in need of help, because these kids these days, take for instance, I used to teach a summer camp for several years for ages 9 to 14. I can tell the kids something. I'll give them an assignment and I'll say, hey, I want you to give me a 30-second commercial. I want music. I want graphics. I want you to add some effects. I'll end up with a 1 minute. I'll end up with a 15-second. And at first, because I wouldn't write it on the board, I would tell them.
Right.
And so our generation on back have been used to, if you're told to do something, do it.
Right.
This generation, you have to tell them. You have to put it on the board. You have to tell them again.
Yes. And
you still... Even after I learned, they're not like me, I have to start writing stuff on the board. Some of them will still give you, well, mine's is 45 seconds. I said 1 minute. Why didn't you give me 1 minute? So then I learned, you have to give them reasons. So I said, think of it like this. I have $500. I want you to produce a 30-second commercial. This is what I wanted to say. And this is what I want in it. So then they turn their assignments in. I said, who's going to get the $500 a day? Me. Okay, how long is your project? It's 1 minute and 5 seconds. You're not getting the money. You. And then it was like, well, why not? I gave you a 1 minute. No. In television, it has to be exactly 30 seconds, 0.0. If it's 30 seconds, 0.5, guess what? It's too long. They're going to kick it back. You're going to have to re-edit and then resubmit again. I said, so you have to think of every opportunity to create a video project as an opportunity to get paid. And if you don't give the client exactly what they asked for, then you can't get paid. And then it opened up something in their minds. And it was like, oh, okay then.
Right.
Because they understand money.
Very well.
This generation understands money and how to spend it.
Yes.
So let's talk about, because when you're raising children God's way, the Bible said train them up.
Yes.
And a lot of times, in this day and age, we're so busy, we're trying to work, And a lot of times we're trying to do civic duties, whether that's church or community duties. And it takes away time from the home. And so we don't have the time that we used to train like we should.
Yeah.
So they'll set a kid in front of a television or give them a phone or iPad, and they'll say, here, go sit down while I go do this, that, and the other.
Right.
And it's training that child. But what we fail to understand is their communication, their attention span, their ability to hear a commandment and do it is totally being construed.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, because we start them off as young as 6 months, giving them a cell phone. And then we wonder why they can't sit still if they don't have something in their hands. Let's talk about that.
I am shaking my head because this is the conversation that I just had with someone. I'm so serious. Their child was having some issues with speech, and some issues just sitting still, and the child is not even, well, they're 2 years old now, and I had to just tell them, I said, you know what? One of the biggest problems is that you always calm that child with that cell phone. That child, I'm telling you, knows how to get on that phone, go on YouTube, pull up videos. I'm not kidding. A 2-year-old.
Yes.
And knows how to swipe and decline calls and all this stuff when they're watching. And so the mom and I had to have a tough talk. And I told her, I said, let me apologize first, because I didn't want the parent to feel like I was attacking her parenting. Because I know sometimes you're busy and you may just say, here, get your cell phone, get this. And that is how they chill or relax. So, but that, just like you said, it messes up everything. Their developmental process, it gets all misconstrued, and they're stuck there in this technology. And I know with even my daughter, I'm not against cell phones. I think our kids need a way to communicate with us with things that are going on in this world. I want my daughter to be able to text me, call me if she's away from me, and let me know what's going on or whatever. But sometimes I think that was the worst thing we could have done for her. And when we punish her, that's the first thing we take. Isn't that funny?
That's hey, my son is on punishment right now.
So, oh, poor fella. So she knows that when we take that cell phone, it's on. But I promise you, Princess, when we take that from her, she miraculously just starts hearing better. And, she starts doing things we've asked her to do, and she's more proactive. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe we should just take the phone forever. But when we take that, we take her MacBook, and I start giving her the talk about how I never had these things at her age. And I date myself, but I didn't. I never had a cell phone. I never had my own room. All these things that these kids take for granted. I had to share a room.
Me too.
So,
until I was in high school, college.
That part right there.
Yeah. High school or college. Yeah.
So they don't know that they're not. I told my daughter I was going to make her privy to something, and I wanted to take her into the neighborhood where I grew up, where my mom had 5 kids and we lived in a 2-bedroom home. So, so think about how that was, and I said, I just want to take you and show you what's really going on. So we do a lot of outreaches. We do a lot of ministry, we nursing home and things like that. So I would take my child and show her, this is what's going on. These are regular people. These are people that are just like you and I, that just need help, need assistance. These people are homeless. These people are having financial trouble where they're needing help getting food, feeding their families. And so she didn't even know that.
I did the same thing with mine, because they just assume, because they grow up in a 2-parent household. Yes. We all go to church, so they figure everybody goes to church. We don't holler, scream, fuss, yell. Right. That's just not our way. And so the first time we were somewhere, I think we were in the neighborhood, and somebody got into it with their spouse, and it spewed from inside the house to outside the house. Wow. And my son was like, Mama. And I said, son, I told you, everybody is not like me and daddy. Exactly. People deal with things differently. And even when he went to middle school, And he was like, Mama, do you know this child does this? And this child like to wear, makeup.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And things of that sort.
Yes.
And so I had to explain to him that sometimes kids act out. They do things for attention.